Hang in there, it is!
Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Welcome back to another episode of The Smylie Show, and I'm laughing here. I hope you're watching on YouTube or Sports Grid TV because Smylie just cheers us with some sort of ornate-looking drink. Smylie's in the Virgin Atlantic Lounge in San Francisco Airport, some Delta family of airports, as he is en route overseas to the United Kingdom for the Open Championship, fresh off a week in Tahoe.
Yeah, got a little margarita. It's actually fantastic. When it came out, I'm used to the big jumbo margaritas that you get in the Mexican restaurants, but this is like a high-end one with the salt on the side. It's really good. And after that drive, about 3.5 hours from Tahoe to here. By the way, San Francisco is so beautiful. Driving in, seeing the Golden Gate Bridge, also seeing Alcatraz, which is where I play a lot of Warzone. I know every inch of that map, so it was cool to wave that as I drove past. But yeah, beautiful city.
It's funny. And growing up in Fresno, that's about as far north as I ever traveled. We were talking, you're on the way in, passing Sacramento, and it's like that's a part of the state that I never ever really went to. As far as I was concerned, San Francisco was the top of the state of California when I was living there. But it was it's funny because everyone always like looks at the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's like the iconic thing. And that was another bridge. Like if you were coming from the south, you would never ever go on that bridge. You take a different, so you just kind of look at it from the distance. Anyway, this is a very random tangent we're on now. San Francisco landmarks, but I'm also short on sleep. Given my own airline issues I've had for the last couple of days, flying on.
You're on a tough run, really tough run.
JetBlue It. I'm calling it JetBlue It from now on. It's now on the no-fly list. We're not doing that ever again.
American Airlines, JetBlue It, both on the list, right? As of now,
both on the Charlie Hulme do not fly list. I need to make a call to JetBlue to request. They gave me $150 travel voucher, and I'm going to try to negotiate a little bit and say I want that in cash because I never want to fly your airline again. You do the same with American as well. We're going to stick to Delta. You're a big Delta guy. I'm going to try to kind of follow in your footsteps. We have some travel.
Big Delta guy.
We're looking at some travel upcoming for some projects, and I'm either going to do Delta or I'm going to just rent a van because those are my.
Dude, unfortunately, like Raleigh's like a big, like it's more American Airlines than it is Delta, right?
Big American Airlines hub, which is problematic unless I want to drive to Charlotte, I guess, or do Southwest really, they do a pretty good job for where they sit in the airline food chain. So like I'm going to do a little Southwest American or Southwest Delta rather combo.
Okay. I'm here for that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's neither here nor there. Let's dig into the meat of this episode a little bit. Really, where we should start is what you were just doing, which was at the American Century Championship out in Edgewood.
I did a lot of that. That margarita lasted like 7 seconds, by the way.
That's it looked phenomenal. I'm sure you did. Yeah, a lot of that stuff out at Edgewood, and I just what I know about this was. While I was traveling, ending this run I've been on, I was getting texts from your dad, aka the Squirrel Man. I got a video of you catching a pass from Josh Allen, which is amazing. Heard some rumors you were shooting hoops with the Curry family, also amazing. And your dad, Jeff, got a shout out from Charles Barkley. So how about that for the week out there? Well, explain a little bit more about this.
It's a big week for Jeff. Yeah. Jeff got some shout outs and from Charles. Yeah, dude, the week. I mean, Tahoe lived up to it, man. I mean, just they had such a great list of athletes, celebrities, all these people that I've always been fans of that I just had, an opportunity to spend a lot of time with. And there was karaoke one night. There was another party the night before at a kind of a concert venue. Then there was a concert that we went to. So every single night you had an opportunity to socialize with, all these famous people. So for me, it was.
Did we get drops of Jupiter? Did we get a little drops of Jupiter?
So the karaoke night, I joked that I was gonna sing "Drops of Jupiter," which is my karaoke go-to song. I wouldn't say chickened out. I just wanted to feel it out year one, seeing like, is it just a celebrity thing, or are other people doing it too? You know, I think now that I know a majority of the people, if I got up there, everybody would be like, "Oh, it's that guy. It's the guy from the 17th hole that won't shut up and stop interviewing me." So it's that guy. But "Drops of Jupiter," or that was going to be the song, or "It's a Great Day to Be Alive," Travis Tritt. That one always seems to get the people going too. But I mean, just the golf tournament was, I mean, I think I drove around it one time. So if you told me like, "Oh, what do you think of the 7th hole?" I'd be like, "I have no idea." I was on the 17th hole on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and had the best view of just so many fans that were there out there trying to get, whether it was an autograph or just a picture of some of the world's famous athletes and celebrities. And I had the best seat in the house. So the week was pretty dang cool. The Kelsey brothers, I feel like, kind of stole the show. The MVP, though, for me, probably Blake Griffin. I told him this on air.
Oh, okay.
This guy is just an electric factory. Absolute electric factory. Him and Chandler Parsons were kind of tied to the hip a little bit. They did karaoke together, and they were fantastic. I can't remember what song he sang, but it was something with, I think, a little bit of rap in it, to where they both got lost in the karaoke, like with the lines of where they were in the song. Like they were telling the band they were wrong, but I think it was definitely them. and so those two guys cracked me up, man. But their personality, Chandler's personality, Blake's as well. I guess give them co-MVPs because they were hilarious this weekend.
That's amazing. It always looks like a ton of fun, but I tuned in a little bit to kind of just to see what you had going there on the 17th. And is it correct that I believe I saw Jason Kelsey blade a wedge shot across the green and end up on, was he playing a shot from the beach? Like, does the 17 just drop off into the beach next to Lake Tahoe?
Yeah, it's like 10 feet of sand and right into Lake Tahoe.
That has got to be one of the cooler like course features that exists. Like just,
it's
make an ace and just,
I tell you what,
strip down, run in the lake.
It was great spectating. I mean, it was just the Lake Tahoe navy of boats were out there every single day. The music was blaring. Just one of the coolest things ever. And part of me was like, is this what Live is like? Just the music blaring. And hey, I loved it. It was a great place to spectate. Did I call it real golf? No, but it was a really cool atmosphere, and I loved it. And I was thinking, would I like this every week? No, I wouldn't. But this was really cool.
Yes. That is the interesting, it's like, it's in some ways, I feel like that's where, to really go on a tangent, that's where we're at with Bryson, where it's like, some of the charm is you just get him every once in a while, and you get the music every once in a while, and you're like, hey, this is kind of fun, kind of miss this. I can get used to this, but then you can't get used to it. That's kind of the charm of it, that it's every once in a while. Well, Smylie has successfully dined in the old Virgin Atlantic Club. Just had a little dinner break here, so we're good on that front. And
just ordered some cookies as well. It's pistachio, dark chocolate, and sea salt. I'm not sure if all three come or if she's just going to surprise me.
What do we have for dinner, by the way? What was that little meal?
Clubhouse chicken burger.
Okay,
I'll give it a 6.2 out of 10. But the fries, that's what's going to hold me down for the fight.
Yeah, that's playing it safe. That's like drafting a left guard. It's just going to kind of anchor the line. It's going to keep the team. Between the lines there. So
she said the salmon's great, but the last thing I want to do is order salmon and then I just get hungry,
Yeah, light and also airport fish. Even in San Francisco, airport fish not to be trusted. So
yeah.
So there you have it.
Here we are.
Well, it's enough about our random airport dining travels, Tahoe, things of that nature. Let's get right into the professional golf, so to speak, the Scottish Open, where we had another thrilling storyline at a National Open, but the same winner. Robert MacIntyre again wins the National Open, the Scottish Open, gets it done in front of the home crowd year after coming up, just narrowly short with Rory winning last year. I got to put my hand up and say, I don't know how the the data gut model did not catch this one. This should have been like big flags, big blue and white cross Scottish flags. Identifying Bobby Mack as a potential winner here, just because he has talked about how he gets home. He's been homesick at times, loves being back at home. His other win on tour this year at the Canadian Open came with his dad in the bag. So this should have been an easy one to flag. My apologies. But, I think maybe the place to start is kind of big picture on Robert MacIntyre, because he's projected to jump to number 16 in the world.
It's crazy, man.
He's now won twice this season on tour. There are only two other guys that have done that on tour. One was Rory McIlroy. One of those wins came partnered with Shane Lowry. And the other is Scotty Scheffler, of course. So it is difficult to win twice in a season on tour, and that is pretty good company Bobby Mack is in now. And to just kind of extend on that point of just the homesickness and the bedding in on PGA Tour and kind of, trying to find your footing in a place that's maybe a bit uncomfortable, just making sense of his trajectory and where he's at. Because to me, this is a guy who's obviously he's been on a winning Ryder Cup side. He feels like a guy that if he could make the UK his home base and play on a global tour, he'd absolutely dominate. But I personally have trouble kind of projecting out what the rest of his career looks like, simply because it's like, how comfortable will he be playing a full-time circuit in the United States of America, where to this point he said, it's not been comfortable for me.
It's interesting you say all that, and I will say it definitely was looking us right into the face. I can't believe we didn't really even mention Robert heading into the Scottish Open, a guy that had such a good chance to win last year, plays, he's playing home type of conditions, so it's got to be comfortable to him. He likes the golf course, obviously. So that was a misstep by our part, because that was, I think it's easy to sometimes think that guys are going to put too much pressure on themselves, and you either say, oh, he's going to play well there because, he's at home, he should feel comfortable, or it's the other way. You never feel like the middle ground of that. So I either think like Robert's missing the cut, or he's, going to win like he did this week. But in Robert's career too, as the margarita is getting delivered, margarita number 2. Cheers. Yeah. Thank you.
Different glass this time. I really could go for a margarita right about now.
It's a big boy glass this time compared to the other one. But it seems that Robert is feast or famine a bit. Mm-hmm. And, when I've watched him play, it's definitely good. It's nothing great considering all the other players that I watch week in and week out. I think he does a lot of stuff really well, but it's nothing that just catches my eye, if that makes sense to you. So, and Data Golf kind of shows that a little bit too, that he, there's nothing that just is like a huge strength in his game. He's just a player that when he's playing well, he's able to take advantage of weeks in which everything feels really well. He's a guy that misses plenty of cuts, but he seems to take advantage of his good weeks better than most players, which I think, I don't know if that's more about playing weekends or more about once you just get to Saturday, it's like, okay, finally the pressure's off of making the cut, and is able to go out and play with some confidence. So you wouldn't have seen it coming into the week, missing the cut at the Rocket Mortgage, missing the cut at the US Open, obviously won in Canada. So you just kind of felt like Canada was going to be his swan song this year. I felt like that was going to be, his big moment in 2024. So him winning the Scottish Open took me by surprise, obviously took you by surprise, but what an absolute scene on the 18th green. That was so cool to see.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, I think for a guy that, clearly cares so much about this place and this tournament, I think it's interesting that that he won the Canadian Open this year, and he had a similarly emotional response for very different reasons, because his dad was there on the bag with him. But that same tournament the year before, we got the Nick Taylor win. It was absolutely electric. And this very much felt like the same sort of thing of a guy that is just so thrilled to win this tournament in front of a home crowd, and
thrilled is an understatement, right?
Oh my! I mean, I think it's just one of those things. It's why golf's so cool, is that there are guys who could have won this, who would have been very happy to secure a PGA Tour win, one that has maybe a little bit of a larger purse given the partnership with the DP World Tour, and one that leads into a major. But for a guy like Bobby Mack to win in front of the home crowd just means so much more. And I think, and it's a great point you make too about if you go back and you look at his results. I mean, I think he's missed 9 cuts this year. That early stretch of the season was really rough. And I think maybe personally, when I'm kind of looking at these guys and trying to figure out if they're going to play good or not, maybe I place a little bit too much emphasis on a recent run of form. But that's why I say I have trouble assessing a guy like this, because the thing that should have been staring me in the face is he's kind of telling you when he's going to play good. It's like, I miss home. If I have something that makes me comfortable, like my dad on the bag or being in Scotland, I'm probably going to play a lot better. And, here we go. He did the 2 times that's happened. He's come home with trophies. So I think that's a trend.
Credit.
Yeah.
Give him credit, right? Like when he finds himself in contention, he knows how to win, and he's not scared of winning. He kind of is able to go out and go full bore and just trust his game and knows that it's good enough to go out and win. And so when you see his name near the top of the leaderboard going into the weekend, you just have to think to yourself, don't overlook this guy.
Without a doubt. I think the place to go next is the way in which he won, because it's been the subject of quite a bit of discussion online. So Robert MacIntyre finishes 3-3-3, and that is an eagle, a par, and a birdie to win the tournament by a shot over Adam Scott. And I think the place to start our discussion is the 3 he makes at 16, that eagle. And so just to recap for those who did not watch it, 16 is a 568-yard par 5, was playing the easiest on the course on Sunday. And so Robert hits his drive 324 yards and kind of misses the fairway right into some of that classic thick, long grass.
Which is easy to do, because if you miss it left, there's 2 pot bunkers that you just cannot go in. So I think it's one of the harder drives on that golf course. But if you find a lie in the right fescue, if you find a lie if you hit the fairway, it's not a complicated second shot.
Yeah, he ends up in a place where, having just returned from Scotland, I'm not sure I could have gotten out of that lie with a chainsaw. I mean, it was buried deep in there. And so he gets over there, and he and his caddy are kind of going through options. Looks like they're going to kind of try to chip out to the left. And he's taking some practice swings, and it looks like he's got a scythe in his hand, because he's just taking huge chunks of grass, swaths of grass, as he's kind of getting ready for this, and sort of clearing some of that grass. And then going to take his stance, he's realizing that he's standing on a sprinkler. And he's almost like the reaction is he's stunned. He said, I think he said something to the effect of, it was great. The mics picked it up. Like, I'm not even fooling. I'm not even joking. Like, I think I can feel a sprinkler on my stance. He also noted that the only reason he felt it was because he was wearing metal spikes instead of the soft spikes, which to go on a real tangent, we want to do this later, I found deeply ironic, as Sahith Theegala stayed to watch him and celebrate his win. And Sahith has been on the show and is on the record as being very anti-metal spikes. So I think Sahith and Robert need to have some sort of a long-form discussion about...
No, we see, this is a different deal. So when you play links golf, I'm actually all for the metal spikes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, firmer ground, better grip. And if the ground is already firm, you're not going to see spike marks. You see spike marks on places that the greens are soft.
There you go.
Typically links golf, you're not going to see the spike marks.
Well, there you go. So learn something new every day. That's one thing. And also the other benefit to wearing metal spikes in links golf is if you hit it in the long grass and you take a stance, you might find a sprinkler that's going to entitle you to free relief. And that is exactly what happens in this situation. Calls over a rules official. He agrees. Yep, you were standing on a sprinkler. The drop he gets is a pretty perfect lie for where he ended up in the rough, a very different situation than where he'd driven the ball. He's got 247 in, and he hits a 7-iron from that distance and runs it up to 6 feet, makes that eagle putt, and that shot proves to be the difference. So I think here's what I want to just kind of explore with you a little bit is I am not saying at all this is Bobby Mack's fault for taking the drop. I think if you were a pro and you are not using the rules to your advantage, you are naive and or foolish. So I think he did the right thing in trying to position himself best to win this tournament. But how do we feel about this rule and when you're playing tournament golf, you hit the ball in a place, you're entitled to relief, but the situation that the ball is being played from materially changes as a result of that drop. What are your feelings on that?
Man, if there's a sprinkler head there and it's on my foot, I'm taking a drop. I don't care. I don't care how bad the lie is. You're entitled to a drop. I think the biggest issue that rules guys have in whether it's grandstands that block a ball that go 40 yards compared to where it should have gone. I'm much more on that side of like, that's not where the golf ball would have ended up in this situation. Listen, you're entitled if you're standing on a sprinkler head, and if it's on, let's say it was up next to the green and you had a nasty lie, and next thing you know, you're let's say you were a yard away from being in the first fairway cut, taking you're taking a drop, and next thing you get your putter out. So it happens all the time. Now, I do feel like if you're, let's say in that same situation that I'm talking about where your ball is greenside in some nasty rough and you're standing on a sprinkler head, and then you're able to get the ball onto the fringe or being able to get the putter out, I feel like it should stay in the same grass that it's in. Now, the situation that you're describing in the fescue, I haven't seen the video, but it sounds like he was already in that area. I don't think you can replicate the lie. Maybe you could, but that's just so discretionary, right? Like there's no way to be able for the guys in the group, like, yep, that's the exact same lie that you had. So I'm for the free relief, but I'm also here for controversy as well. So if this gives us something to talk about, then fine.
Yes. I mean, there's nothing like a good media created outrage that, a bunch of people are yelling about, and it's actually just not that big of a controversy at all. It's just like 12 people that are screaming into the void about it. I think.
Well, it's like, why is there a sprinkler head there? That would be the question.
that is where my head went first. I was like, why is it there and why is it so buried? And is that a functional sprinkler head? And maybe should we look at maybe getting that removed at some point in time? Because I'm not sure that we're using that. I think you make a good point too about, when people complain in any sport about the rules and the way they're written, you have to take the next step of, okay, well, how would you write them differently? And that's where I think we get hung up in this situation is, it is completely arbitrary if he has the lie he has, and you're saying, well, you can't materially change or improve the lie. It's like, well, then who's going to be the person that goes and takes it away from the sprinkler and then finds another part of the grass to put it into where there's not a material change? You really can only write a rule to be as simple as you're standing on a thing that you shouldn't have to stand on. You get X amount of club lengths from where you're standing. And the method by which we're telling you to replace the ball is to drop it from your knee. I mean, that you really can't write it in any way that makes it so ambiguous that it's you can't interpret it clearly. So I think that's a fair point, but also I share the same agreement with you of we see some weird stuff around the TIO and the grandstands and this and that, where it's there was one a couple weeks ago on the DP World Tour where they had like a hospitality tent that was literally right up against the green. And I think I saw a guy like airmail it into that, hospitality area and then just took a drop on the actual green. You're like, this is, first of all, terrible course construction. But second of all, like, why are we doing tournaments in this way, shape, or form? So on that topic, have you been in a locker room around a tournament where you're watching a competitor or someone else who you're playing with, your friend of, is watching a competitor who gets a drop like that? And what is the type of reaction you get in that situation? Is it just like, hey, that's how it goes? Or is it like, you got to be kidding me, man? How does he get that drop in that situation? It's like, I wonder how an Adam Scott feels looking back on that. Like, really? That's how I lose a golf tournament?
You didn't see guys question drops quite as much when it comes to sprinkler head, because I think a lot of players, there's a benefit of the doubt when it comes to that. It's, they trust that, hey, this is the shot you were trying to play. Now there's times where guys, bend it a little bit if they're next to a tree, and it's like, oh, my only shot was to play lefty and I'm standing in the cart path. Next thing you know, you take a drop. Now you're hitting righty and have a full shot at the green. So that there's ways in which it's like, is that really the fairest thing ever? No. But I think the other big one is just why, like, where your ball crosses the water. That's such a opinion, and what your eyes see versus another person, and the angles that you have. I think you hear about that maybe every other month about something of like, man, that was a dicey drop. And sometimes our TV picks up the conversations, like the Rory one at 7 at the Players. Was a popular one, and 18 that same day. So Daniel Berger comes to mind at 16 at Players. I don't know why all these are at Players, but maybe it's just a lot of water. But no, I think for the most part, all the guys, they know how the PGA Tour rules officials are going to govern and just how and what you can get away with as far as just drops. And for the most part, they protect the players' health and safety when it comes to potentially injuring yourself. But I mean, sometimes you get lucky, which is what you got to do to win. And I tell you this all the time, when it comes to winning, you got to get lucky. And Robert McIntyre got lucky, but guess what he did too? He took advantage of it.
Yeah, and by the way, MacIntyre knows he got lucky. There's an extended quote that he gave after the win where he, said, "Hey, it in summary was effectively just that. Like I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. I said to my caddy, I think I'm standing on a sprinkler, and then you get a bit of luck, and he still had to hit the 7-iron to 6 feet, and make that putt. So." Oh, so is this for the YouTube audience, the TV audience? This is a warm pistachio cookie. Is that
looks like a sea salt cookie?
Wow, that looks
chocolate
phenomenal.
Chip. Yeah, I'm gonna get into that here in a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna midnight snack after this.
Margarita and a cookie, though, that doesn't really go together?
Listen, man, if you listen to our Thanksgiving draft we had last year, margarita goes with anything.
It's a shame that only like 17 people listened to that, because it was probably one of our best episodes.
That was, if you have like an hour to kill and nothing else to do with your life, go listen to our Thanksgiving draft or watch it on YouTube, because it was one of our exactly as Smylie says. There was,
and if you couldn't follow exactly what we were trying to do there, we didn't really know either. But we had a good time with it.
Boy, did we. I can't wait to run that back this year. Not sure what we're going to do. The wrinkle's going to be this year, but that was quite enjoyable. The other guy worth talking about, I mean, there are a number of notable names at the top of the leaderboard that as we preview the Open Championship this week, we're going to get to and talk about them in depth. But Ludvig Åberg comes into the day leading. If you look at Ludvig's week, it's so strange. Like he goes 64, 64, 65, and then 73 on Sunday, 3 over par. And looking at his strokes gained stats, I mean, it was just bad across the board. It was, his probably his worst metric was around the green, lost a shot and a half there, but close after that was it lost a shot and a quarter off the tee, lost 1.1 shots approach, and then his best statistic was putting, but still was in the negative there, negative 0.67 strokes gained putting. So just a strange sort of finish to this tournament for Ludvig, a guy that we know has all the talent in the world, a guy who's near the top of the favorites board for next week at Troon for the Open Championship. So I just wonder what sort of reflections you had on that result for him, given how much we think of his game and his performances in these sort of situations.
Well, I think it's always good to look at how the rest of the field played that day and just what they were relative to par. And the fact that only 16 players shot over par of 74 players, and of the top 26 guys, only one guy shot over par, and that was Ludvig Åberg. Another player shot even par, Matteo Manassero. But I think you have to be a little judgy on this round. That's not a good performance for a player who's had a really strong 3 days and felt like it was going to be his tournament to lose. I think I woke up today. I guess these guys were about to tee off, and it just felt like there was no way Ludvig was going to lose today. I just felt like he was the front runner the whole time, played fantastic the whole week. What was going to stop him? And just didn't expect a day in where he just didn't have it. I think that was really surprising that he was not able to give it much more of a fight than he did. I don't think you can say that he doesn't know how to win, or he doesn't have the clutch gene. Well, that's not true. He's won at every level. He's won on the PGA Tour, but this one's going to sting a little bit. I think he's going to be a little frustrated by his play today, and sometimes you just don't have it. But it's on a Sunday and a day in which you have a 2-shot lead and you're playing as well as you are. I think surprised that he wasn't in better rhythm and not able to kind of stay in that same mind frame that he had the first 3 days.
Yeah, you and I were talking in preparation for this episode about just looking back at at comparable situations, this season, in his first kind of full one on tour. I get, last year had the half season where he got the PGA Tour U promotion and of course won in the fall, which counted towards last season, even though it was a double wraparound fall. That was his first win on tour. But just looking at this year specifically, there are 4 tournaments that I pulled to kind of reference, when he's been in a position to kind of go out and win a high leverage tournament. And so obviously we just saw him at the US Open. He was, in solo first after the second round. He shoots 73 on the weekend to finish T12. At the RBC Heritage, he's tied for 4th after the third round, shoots 72 to finish tied for 10th. At the Masters, this kind of runs counter to the point that we're making right now, is he was 4th after the third round. He was one of the guys that rose to the top, outside of Scotty, to shoot 69 and finish solo second. I think the moment we remember there is hitting into the water at 11 and really kind of being the last guy who had a chance to beat Scotty and then falling away. He and Colin Morikawa making that same mistake and falling away. And I think both of us agree as well. Scotty still wins. Maybe it's by 2 shots instead of 4, but Ludvig still played really well there to finish second. And then of course the AT&T Pro-Am, where he is second and a shot back after the third round, and we don't even get the 4th round played because of all the weather that was in the area that weekend. So I think that some of the chatter that we've both seen as it relates to his ability to close tournaments, and are we worried about this? I mean, I personally am not. I think that there are definitely some tough moments. I'm curious, I'd love to hear your perspective on, as he beds into the PGA Tour. One thing that struck me today was watching the difference in pace of play between both Ludvig and Bob MacIntyre. And I think that, it seemed like there were moments where I don't know if they were put on the clock or warned early on, but whatever the situation was, clearly they were not playing at his preferred pace of play. And if you're in his camp, are you suggesting any sort of adjustment or just, hey, I know you like to play this way and everyone loves you for it, but maybe let's kind of try to fit in with the rest of the tour here so that you're taking the time you need to hit these high leverage shots when you're in contention on a Sunday?
Do they play twosomes or threesomes?
I believe it was twosomes today.
Okay.
Just double check that.
Maybe there was an issue with, maybe Ludvig got in some trouble early in the day. Next thing you know, you're put on the clock. That always can throw players off, especially when they don't like being on the clock. For a guy like Ludvig, who's never really on the clock because he's a very quick player, like you're talking about. But I don't think Robert or Bob, as so many call him, would be by any means slow playing anyone. I think Ludvig is a quick player. He wants to play fast. He wants to stay in rhythm. But, every day's different. I think you especially on a Sunday, you have to find a way to will yourself on days you don't have it. And Ludvig didn't have it today. So the fact that he wasn't able to kind of just dig a little deeper and just, whether it was a putt he had to make or a decision with an iron shot to play it more toward conservatively, and maybe got caught playing too aggressive, trying to play catch up and make birdies. I wish I could comment more on it as I was working all day. I wasn't able to get to watch it all, but you see that happen a lot of times with guys that are pushing, that maybe had woken up, all they're thinking about is winning the golf tournament, and sometimes they skip some steps and not able to stay present. But no, you don't need to change routines, and I don't think Ludvig doesn't. To me, he's very instinctual. He's not a guy that, yes, he has a routine, but he'll slow it down if he needs to.
Yeah. I mean, it just was something that for me, obviously, I wouldn't suggest that Robert MacIntyre was slow playing him, more so than he just has a routine that he sticks to, and he's going to do it every single time, and he's especially deliberate around the greens. And I think it was maybe Brian Harmon that I was reading at one point where he maybe played at a different pace, when he arrived on tour, and he'd just been told, by someone, whether it was a sports psychologist or a coach, like, hey, you need to kind of slow things down because that's the rate at which you're going to play on tour, that's the way, that's the pace everyone else is going to play around you, and you shouldn't be hitting shots before you're ready. And so I'm not suggesting the Ludvig is not ready when he's hitting these shots. I wonder if some of that, trying to kind of calibrate the rate at which you're kind of pacing these days out as it changes to a guy who is more deliberate, if that's something that impacts the scoring. But I think, to your larger point, that definitely feels like the story of Ludvig's day. I mean, you never see him drive it with the type of inaccuracy that he had, in that final round, and just stuff around the green where he's usually one of the best iron players on tour, stuff like that, where it just, it was definitely an off day for him, but just had a curiosity around the pace of play discussion for Ludvig. So, and he's still one of the favorites this week, and he could very well go out and win his first major at Troon, would not shock me in the slightest. So some other names that kind of want to ping here, obviously one and done. Not listen, we can't pick winners every single week. Might as we try. You did a lot better than I did with Tom Kim to my Minwoo Lee pick. Minwoo Lee started
top 15.
Yeah, you had a little tie for 15. Minwoo Lee, I believe, was 73rd.
Can we talk about Tom, though, what he did?
Yeah, you scared, not really me. You scared me for the show when you said, I woke up to a text one morning saying, and I thought Tom Kim was not registered for the tournament.
Well, he didn't register for the tournament, and typically he would have had to flown home, but I guess there was a sponsor exemption still available, and they gave it to Tom. So he could have very easily flown over to Scotland, realized he didn't sign up, and then had to have flown home. So I'm blaming Tom Kim not winning this week in those 5 shots. That had to be like a 5-shot penalty in his brain, and I think that ended up being the difference. Actually, 6 shots. He shot 12 under.
Yeah, I think that's good for 6. I wonder. I wish I'd seen more of him play this week with the different, the time of the tournament. Like, did he have to slap the sponsor's logo on? Did he have additional sponsor committee? Like, what was the nature of that exemption? You got to wonder what happened there behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know, but my boy Aaron Rye just won't stop shooting 6 under par every round.
How about Aaron Rye? So our 2 guys amongst the ones we liked, I had the Gala, you had Rye, both finished tied for 4th. Aaron Rye, here's what I want to just note here, because I was looking through his stats, and in the past his weakness has been putting, right? This week in his second round on Friday, gained almost 3 strokes putting. And then on Sunday, when he goes out and shoots, I think he shot a 63 on Sunday. He gained 3.36 strokes putting in that Sunday round, and qualifies for the Open Championship in the process. So, for me, it's like, okay, everything's starting to come together for him. We've obviously seen it in the past month with some of these tournaments, but and I think the putting thing is especially interesting because we've changed surfaces so much in this past month. Bermuda at Pinehurst. Then you go to the Bent Poe mix at Travelers and Rocket Mortgage. Then you go to Bent at John Deere. Now you're here, putting on Red Fescue, and it'll be the same next week at the Open. So to see him putting like this on this grass makes me think, now he's in. He can play pretty well at Troon.
Bro, he's a striper. And since making the change and going to see John Graham up in Rochester, teaches a lot of guys out on tour. His improvement in that part of his game has been the reason for the big jump. I mean, you kind of referenced it and how good the putting was at the Scottish Open, but man, he had some unbelievable putting days at the John Deere and the Rocket Mortgage, just days that are just you can't miss. So obviously, whatever he's doing, I remember his routine. He was like taking his arm off of the club and like putting it on his chest, and maybe there's something to either square his shoulders, or maybe he's trying to feel his shoulders move the putter back, and that's kind of the reference point in that. But my boy's all the way up in the top 50 in the world, and he ain't won yet. So if that tells you what type of golf he's played, he's 45th in the world. So love to see it. Maybe Aaron Rye. Maybe he's if there's a guy that's going to randomly win the Open Championship next week that nobody's talking about winning, dude, Aaron Rye.
Yeah, I mean, Englishman, should be a little bit of that home cooking. He's a guy that
little home cooking. We can't overlook the home cookers now.
The home cooker is it's rapidly shooting up the data gut model. It's being factored in. I'm tweaking my percentages of the data gut and home cooking is now high.
Fitzy. He doesn't like links golf, so we got to remove him from the data gut.
His home cooking variable I've had to turn down. It's a specific toggle I made for him. It's interesting. It's like I wonder, has he played too much golf? Like in this last stretch, like as he's played, I think darn near every week. And is this a guy who's like going to be just rolling in on fumes at the Open Championship? I mean, I don't know.
How about it, man? He's played so like there's somebody that always plays really well during the summer. Aaron Rai, it's been him this year. He wasn't in the Open Championships, like you said. So to go all the way over to Scotland, he probably didn't have to play. Decides, you know what? I'm playing good enough. Let me go play the Scottish. I'll go try to play my way into the Open Championship. And I've watched him play plenty this year. He's got it on a string. He drives it incredibly straight. And he's built for an Open Championship. Those two gloves that he wears on both hands, that is a guy that is built for major championship, Open Championship golf, I should say.
Yes, it's like I wonder if he has a separate pair of gloves that they're the rain gloves. Like, are the rain gloves the primary gloves, and he has a different set of rain gloves? These are all things that we might find out this week at Troon if we get a little bit of precipitation. Have you looked at the forecast, by the way?
I think it's raining.
Ooh. Okay.
I think it's raining, which fits for my boy Aaron Rai.
Rain gloves. Big rain gloves week for the Rai guy.
And his irons, he's got the covers on the heads.
So he's another good point.
So this guy, I'm telling you.
You're really heating up on Aaron Rai.
Am I just selling you like this is going to be the week he wins?
Yeah, you're starting to. It's a real shame he didn't do it when I picked him in one and done, and he came, woefully close. That's I see all these guys now through the lens of one and done. So you're probably going to sneak in a little Aaron. You know what? I should say this: you deserve to win with Aaron Rai. You've been on the train.
I might pick him.
You deserve to win with Aaron Rai. So wouldn't that be a Cinderella story? Well, yeah. I mean, so I think that's a guy that's putted well. JT, I wanted to briefly touch on. He opened up with that 62 and gained 3.42 strokes putting with that new Scotty Cameron. Because we'd seen him change. He had the old Scotty that was a mallet, and then he'd gone to that blade that was a replica of what Gordon Sargent was using, and now he's got this new. I don't know if it's a prototype or it's just like the newest model of like the Scotty Phantom or something like that. Looked really, really good. The Friday through Sunday, not so good, but golly, like just watching on Thursday, I was like, ooh, JT might be back. Like we're back territory. And, we'll get there. Eventually.
No, it's good to see a hot putting round. I think one statistic that just popped out was a Justin Ray tweet probably. I'm not sure if it was or not, but he made a 42-foot putt that first round, and it was the longest putt he has made since 2022 at 42 feet. Like he hadn't made anything outside of 40 feet, which you think he'd run one in at some point over a year and a half. So that just kind of tells you kind of how it's been for JT, which is a guy that normally wears out the middle of the greens. And if he's not getting anything to go from that range, like once a tournament, you don't pick up that extra shot or just that extra momentum putt that can propel you to some more golf like it in the coming holes. So if you're constantly just trying not to three putt, that's you got to hit it pretty dang close.
Yeah. Well, let's hope this is the putter. As a tinkerer, there's nothing better than feeling like you've arrived. You're like, this is the one. I don't have to tinker anymore. So it looked good. It looked good on Thursday, and let's hope we see more of that in the weeks to come. So I think now is as good a time as ever to kind of turn it over to the other professional tour, where we will be seeing some of these guys in the field this next week at the Open, live at Valderrama. And if you're a Spanish sporting fan, congrats. You had a day on Sunday because you started the day with a win for Carlitos Alcaraz at Wimbledon in straight sets over Novak Djokovic. And then, you waited maybe a couple hours and you watched Spain defeat England in the Euro final. And then, of course, maybe arguably the most important event of the day, Sergio Garcia and the Fireballs win the individual and team awards at Live Valderrama. So lots of Spanish triumphing, and boy, I mean, Sergio looked like a Spanish flag, as did the rest of his team. We are, God bless them. I like the Fireballs and the Ironheads are in a like worst uniform off, and I don't know who's winning right now.
No,
they're both doing
great. You got to throw the Legion in there too.
You don't like the Legion uniforms. I mean, the Legion uniforms aren't great, but they're also not like. I mean, have you seen the Ironhead shirts?
I don't like the logo. I don't like the Legion logo. So I don't know. I don't like it either, though. I don't like the hot pink and black. I don't. No, that ain't for me.
The Ironheads uniforms are so bad they're almost good. Like they look like
it's like the Raiders, isn't it? In like black and gray.
No, they have like these weird, like these green stripe. Like it looks like a second division Italian soccer team. It's amazing. I don't know who makes them or where they get them from, but yeah, I mean those. But yeah, but the Ronald McDonald look, it's a look. It's definitely a look.
And shout out to anybody that parlayed all of those Spanish teams winning. And if you happen to have the prop bet of Abraham Ancer throwing his wedge into the woods, what a ticket you cash with Alcatraz Euro final, Sergio the Fireballs, and Ancer's wedge still in the air.
I had that one as sort of a kicker to the segment, but you noted it, so let's just chat about this. I mean, I'm a retired member of the helicopter gang. Used to love a good club toss, but I've been told by people love me, it needs to stop, and so I'm doing my best. But I want to know the shot cut off. I want to know where it landed because. To me, the key to a good club toss is you have like a split second after you've hit a terrible shot to determine where can I throw this club to where it's not going to damage my club head or my shaft. And then
you can't be vertical. It's got to be horizontal.
It's a horizontal. It's like a frisbee motion. And then you got to commit to the release. You can't try to steer it in there. You just got to trust it and just let that thing go and just trust that it's going to land. And I've had some close calls. I threw a 2-iron into a creek bed one time, miraculously missed all the rocks in there. It was, no words for the wear. But I just want to know. I want to know if Abe was able to pick a good target right after he stubbed that chip shot and land that wedge in there nice, or if we're looking at a replacement wedge.
I don't think he found that, man.
You think he just left it?
Well, I think it's so far in there. I don't think it was a situation where you're going to find it. But
you think he threw it into like a hazard? I didn't see on the side of the thing.
Valderrama just doesn't seem like a place when you throw it into the woods that you're going to go find it. By the way, Valderrama, easily one of my favorite venues that Live Golf plays.
Really?
Probably one of the highest up there. I just love every time Valderrama's on TV. The scoring is always, it's not very low. You can go shoot something, 67 goes a long way when you play that golf course. So that, when we talk, we debate the golf courses that both tours play, and, the PGA Tour is in a stretch right now where you got to go shoot 1 million under. And Scottish Open obviously would have been maybe a little closer to 10 under par if it would have been a little trickier weather, but Valderrama is a golf course that, plays firm fast. You got to drive it really well. Typically the greens get firm, and, you saw, I believe it was 6 under was a winning score. That's a hell of a test.
Well, and on that topic too, because I think this is something that we talked about this. We were kind of delighted by this earlier in the year when we saw Ripper win the team awards in Adelaide, and just the home game sort of environment that they had, and just talking about how, man, this is a cool thing. This is something that got me to pay attention to Live, and can they do more of this? And so I'm just wondering your reflections on having another home game sort of set up for the Fireballs. I know they're not all Spanish players, but, Sergio being the captain there, did that do something for you, seeing that team win at this setting, and kind of add to that sort of home game sort of setup that Liv has stumbled into in some ways?
Yeah, I think it's cool, right? And I think the good way to compare it is, all right, so do you like a team win at home? So you just mentioned the Rippers win in Australia and then Fireballs winning in Spain. But I tell you what, I prefer probably Robert MacIntyre winning in Scotland by himself. I think that's cooler to me. I think both are Both are great. But sign me up for Robert winning in Scotland. I think over it. And you could say that about, a lot of players on the PGA Tour. If they, Keegan Bradley winning at the Travelers, I think that's way cooler than these guys winning in their home country. I think it's great because they have all the support and maybe a little bit of an advantage. I don't know. Just the 4 guys that are from the same place probably feel, like they would have a little bit of a, pip in their step from maybe a little bit more, their crowd cheering them on a little harder, but also, just comfortable with the conditions of how the golf course is. It's something that they're probably familiar growing up on, but those kind of ring in my head. Travelers with Keegan and Robert in Scotland. I'm sure there's plenty more, like when Jordan's won in Dallas, Fort Worth. Those are always really fun ones, I think, to watch on TV. But yeah, I think that's probably when the live golf model is at its best, is when, these teams are winning at home, because guess what? On TV, when you watch, it's going to sound and feel like it's a bigger event because the energy is more than it would be if, let's say, the Ironheads or the Cliques were winning this week in Spain.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I just think that's the one thing that, of the live golf model, that's the one that strikes me as being something that gets me to pay attention. And so that's something that you probably
we haven't even talked about how they won, by the way. How Sergio and the Fireballs won.
Yes. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes. I mean, it was a 2.5 footer, maybe 3 footer that Anirban Lahiri missed.
Oh, okay. So yes. And by the way, this is actually a perfect time for a little live trivia, because our guy, Sean Laurie, is back with more nuggets this week. I regret that I can't get to all of them, but how much money do you think Anirban Lahiri has won on Live Tour since he joined?
I'm going to go with 7.8 million.
Wow. That's amazing. Do you want another guess? Do you want me to tell you what he's made?
Just tell me.
23.6 million.
And Anirban, he went on a 1-year contract.
How about that?
1-year contract. Do you know how aggressive that is to do and how big of a risk that was for him? A 1-year deal, and goes and earns a spot on the Crushers, signs probably for a 3-year deal after that first year. But that's, what, and for some guys, I'm not saying that live isn't, it's great for Anirban Lahiri. He didn't ever really get into the PGA Tour. Like, he wasn't, his family never really settled into Florida. In times I've talked to him, I think he's I believe he's in Dubai, I believe, last time I talked to him, which is a little closer to home, to India, where he grew up. So I think it's, been beneficial for guys like that. And you kind of mentioned Robert MacIntyre being homesick earlier this year. And this is the time of the year where it's like, God, I wish the PGA Tour just leaned into all these opens and just an Irish Open, Scottish Open, the Open. And we were playing harder golf courses, tougher conditions. The winner at the end of the week is most likely the guy who played the best that week. And it's not as much of an execution test. It's a guy who actually golfed his ball and was able to, fight all the elements. And I want to see more of that. I think there's a place for.
Okay. All right. We got a little breaking news flight update.
Please make your way down to gate A12. As a courtesy reminder, please check all your personal belongings before leaving the clubhouse. On behalf of Virgin Atlantic, we thank you for spending your time with us and have a pleasant flight.
So that's our wrap signal.
I think we got a wrap.
Okay. This is the part of the episode where Smiley's just received his gate announcement, so I'm not sure where we were. And
I finished my cookie.
And you finished your cookie, so let's finish your cookie now. Look, we had a few other things on our docket that we were going to get to, but here's the great thing about that is I had some numbers and stat that Sean had passed on John Rahm, and we get to talk about that as part of our Open Championship preview, because as we've discussed previously on the show, this is a big one for Rahm. Final major of the year, chance to make a statement. So we'll get to that at that point. And we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up this week. We've got an Open Championship preview. We're going to discuss Troon, some historical facts and figures from previous Opens played here. We have, of course, our one and done picks. We're going to have a huge bounce back week. Get a little playoff and live stream.
You're going to have a bounce back week. I actually had a pretty decent week.
I'm speaking for myself here, but I'm coming off a win, so I have a little bit of leeway there. And Smylie, of course, on site in Troon.
7.4 on the cookie.
7.4 for the cookie. So look, that's good. We went up. We went from 6.2 to 7.4 off
margarita
the chicken sandwich.
A 9.
It looked like a 9. It looked like a 9.5
of these. This was fantastic.
Something tells me they might serve you a few of those on the flight over to Heathrow. So
I'm not a plain alcohol drinker.
Yeah.
It's like not my thing. I'm actually only drink. It's the only time I ever drink soda on a plane. I'll drink Sprite every flight.
Okay.
And I never drink soda anywhere else. It's just the weirdest thing.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you're gonna have plenty. You got plenty of time to go have some Sprites, some margaritas on the way over there. And the next time we see you, we're gonna be talking to you to preview the Open Championship. So we're looking forward to that. And then, of course, as we do always for all these majors, we're gonna have daily journals recapping all the action from Troon. So that's what you got to look forward to this week. We appreciate you watching and listening. And we'll be not back here. I'll be here. Smylie will be over there. We'll talk to you soon.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our lovely fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
it's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too. So please keep it up.
For all the good people of YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the